Hi everyone, it's Abby with Happy Little Mystic, and welcome back to your free self-paced tarot course. Today's lesson is all about card number 4, the Emperor. If you missed our first few lessons of the Major Arcana, you can check those out in the playlist link that I've put in the description box for you. And if you're following along in our tarot workbook, you will find a section for the Emperor and all of the things we need to fill out to fully understand his card. Okay, so let's get started. All right, we will start with the imagery of the Emperor. Right away, we notice that red coming through, similar to his counterpart, the Empress and the Magician. That red meaning passion and action, vitality. You'll notice he's sitting in the center of the card. He is looking directly at us. He's sitting on a stone throne, and the stone is representing stability and structure. The throne is representing his success, and the fact that he's sitting in this position directly toward us. His body is directly toward us. He's showing confidence and power. Behind him is this barren desert, so we don't see any trees or greenery, none of the lush vegetation that we've had in the Magician and the Empress. We do see the water here, however, along the beach in the sand, just barely. And this stream of water indicates emotion and intuition, which is going to lead to the inspired action, which is his red robe here indicates. The armor beneath his robe is very significant here, and this is showing that he's ready at a moment's notice for battle. Again, the red robe here indicates that power, action, authority. He's holding an orb here in his left hand, and sometimes in other decks it's depicted as a globe, and it's showing his dominion over the world and the material realm. His scepter here is showing masculinity and control, sovereignty. His throne also has the ram heads here. And these ram heads are connected to the sign of Aries, which is the zodiac sign that goes along with the Emperor. And his crown here, that is a clear depiction of status, influence, and authority. So if you're following along with our workbook, the next section will be all about astrology and the zodiac signs. As I mentioned earlier with the ram heads, the zodiac sign associated with the Emperor is Aries, and they have the ram as their symbol. And the planet that goes along with Aries and the Emperor is Mars. So Mars is all about assertiveness and authority. So the Emperor here is asserting personal power, authority, leadership, and stability. He's also known as the Father. So a connection we can make later on in the connection section is that the Empress was known as the mother figure, and now the Emperor is known as the Father in tarot. He is a ruler in this position. He has power and authority. If you have a yes or no question and the Emperor shows up, he is a yes, but there needs to be control and discipline and a strong foundation to succeed. So if you have a question like, should I take this job, or is this relationship the right one for me? The answer would be yes. However, you do need a strong foundation to succeed. In other words, it's not just going to come easy. So yes, but you might have to work a little bit at it. And if it's something you really want, that's worth it. The keywords for the upright meaning, if the Emperor shows up in the upright position, would be to take inspired action, similar to our Magician card with that red robe again, take that action. It's associated with personal power, grounded and ready for action. So the stone throne here and his armor here is grounding him, showing that he's ready to go to battle if needed. The Emperor stands for being disciplined and stable. He is that father figure. The overall meaning of the Emperor in a reading would be this connection to divine masculine energy. So again, just as the Empress was all about our feminine energy, telling us that it's important to call in that feminine energy, the Emperor is doing the same, but for the masculine energy. And that could look like taking action, getting things done, coming from a place of power rather than fear, being ambitious, and having drive. We all have the feminine and masculine energy within us, and sometimes we need to be reminded when the Emperor shows up that we need to be using our masculine energy to get things done. If the Emperor shows up in a career or finance reading, the advice is to take inspired action on your goal. Step into a leadership role, speak up, ask for what you want. It can be yours. You are ready for battle. You can do this. If the Emperor shows up in a love or romance reading, the advice here is to make a bold move. You have more power than you realize. It also recommends to stay balanced. In the other section, I did note that you should be giving yourself permission to take up more space when this card shows up. It indicates that you need to become an authority within your life. You don't need to take a back seat. You have the ability to create and to be the authority in the things that you desire. So instead of diverting to others or their opinions and overvaluing what other people think, this card showing up tells us that you know that you have this. And if you don't, you should. The Emperor showing up is telling us that you don't need to look to others for success, for that external validation. Moving into the numerology section of our workbook, the Emperor is the number 4, and 4 stands for stability, structure, hard work, and security. It's all about being practical, reliable, and then there's also this sense of protection from angels and support from the divine. So the angel number 444 showing up is all about the idea that the angels are with you and protecting you. Angel number 4 showing up could also mean that you're on the right path. So if the Emperor shows up in reverse and you're choosing to read reversals, this could mean that you are stuck and you're unable to take action. There's an inability to get out there. You or your client may be feeling defensive, or perhaps you're dealing with someone who's being defensive or reactive. There's a sense of, there's a lack of flexibility when the Emperor shows up in reverse. So again, this could be in your own life or someone that you're dealing with. If he shows up in reverse, this could indicate insecurities, coldness, issues with authority, father figures. The Emperor in reverse could also indicate a disconnection from your personal power, similar to the Magician in reverse. It can also denote the presence of toxic masculinity in your life. Perhaps there's an abuse of power going on or defensiveness. There could be immature reactions that stem from fear and anger when the Emperor shows up in reverse. It's a very emotion-driven card here. When a card does show up in reverse, again, it's that resistance to the upright position. So really, instead of taking that inspired action, you're feeling stuck. And instead of feeling grounded and ready, stable and powerful, you're feeling defensive and angry and fear and cold. So the connections to the other card section. I brought in the Magician a few times now with the red robe and the inspired action, that personal power, knowing that you're ready for what it is that you want to do. So go for it. They also hold a similar meaning when they're both reversed in that lack of personal power. And as I mentioned earlier, the Emperor and Empress are definitely connected. We have the mother and the father of tarot. Moving on to the personal insights and reflections section. This is a great place for you to write down how the Emperor makes you feel when you see him in a reading. What connections can you make to the card that'll help you better recall his meaning when he pops up in a reading? One thing you can note is that when the Fool met the Emperor in the Fool's Journey in Lesson 1, the Emperor taught the Fool to take order of his life, leadership and authority, and establishing that stability. He taught him that it was time to get up and go, that he could do this. Now let's take a look at some of the other tarot decks that I have and see how the imagery compares. So we'll start with Radley Valentine's Angel Tarot cards. And he has the Emperor depicted as Archangel Michael in this card. The words here are organization, logic, structure, and discipline, and then also leadership. So another beautiful card with Archangel Michael in the center here. He is in a closed off position here, crossing his arms. He's not looking directly at us either, which is interesting. But if you look closely, you can see that he is dressed for battle if needed, his armor. He has his sword here in a very long wand. He also has his halo here above his crown. It's interesting that Archangel Michael is depicted here in the blue, which is his typical color, and there is no red present for the traditional emperor. These curtains here too are almost shielding the emperor in this card, but it's as if he's not being blocked. He can easily step out if needed. In our next deck, we have the Bradley Valentine's Guardian Angel Messages Tarot. This is one of my favorite ones of the emperor. Very powerful looking. And I like the similarities here. So this emperor is holding, like I said earlier, the world, showing that dominion over materialism. He also has a coin here for money. It says organization, leadership, and structure. He's sitting on a very ornate throne here. I love the purple. Interesting. So this card is showing the sword, cups, wands, and the pentacles. So all four elements are at his fingertips, very similar to that of the magician. And this emperor is dressed and ready to go. He has his angel wings. He's divinely protected, but he means business. So I love that card. And then with my new deck, the Wild Reflections Tarot deck, here we have this emperor. And I love how they included the ram's head again to align with the Aries sign. He's holding his spear here, very powerful looking. His body language is almost exactly the same as the original. I also love that his throne isn't made out of stone, but it's made out of roots from a tree, also indicating strength and stability. And then he has a bird on top of his head. I'd like to take time to dive deeper into the meanings behind this specific deck. I was very much drawn to it to do with all the nature. And it's interesting that this has the trees behind the emperor, whereas in the original deck, it's this barren desert. So very nice. If you have your own deck at home, again, I do recommend comparing to the original deck to see how they compare, to see what other symbols you might be able to pull out. So that does it for our lesson on the emperor today. Our next lesson will be all about card number 5, the Hierophant. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let us know you're here. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.